Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Somebody has their microphone unmuted. I can hear about Kamala Harris.
I know, but I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway. Well, I just wanted to say that I caught something in the minutes when I was looking at them again.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. No sound. Okay.
We have quorum.
Welcome to, hold on, we've got a little echo. All right, welcome to, yep, still bad. Try this again. Everybody can hear me, right? All right. Sorry, I was trying to look at the external view on the as well. So tonight's our executive meeting. Our full board meeting is next week. We have one more executive committee meeting before the full board. September is shaping up to be a pretty interesting month. I think we're going to be pretty busy, but I just wanted to start with the agenda, which we'll do the same way that we normally do, which is starting off with the district manager's report, chair's report, and then discussion and reports from the committee chairs. Or actually, we'll start with the calendar just as a preview for next week, and then go into the committee reports, and then new business and old business. Does that sound good to everybody? And second? Okay.
Sounds good.
Shirley, do you have a question?
Carter,
Yes.
could we start, before we start this meeting, would you be kind enough to have at least a minute of silence for our lost committee member, Tom Connor?
Yes.
Well, I was going to do that during the chair's report. That's certainly something that we can begin with. As you know, we had the very sad news of Tom's passing. I had received a very nice email from his niece, who more formally communicated his passing to us, and that was very nice from her, and very tough as well. But I wanted to have a moment of silence. I think that many of us served with Tom for a long time and knew him quite well. A moment of silence. Thanks, everybody. We don't have any details yet, but his niece had informed me that she would be sharing those details with us when they become available. Certainly very sad news. Bob, do you want to start us off?
Sure, just a few things. First, I wanted to invite everyone to take a look at our website at your earliest convenience. It's we have a new and improved website thanks to Do It and the work of Josh. The main reason that the website was updated actually is pursuant to a New York City Council piece of legislation that requires that all New York City government websites be made more accessible. So the purpose is to create more accessible content. And I think as soon as you go on, you'll see that the print, that the font is bigger, easier to read. But it might be a little, the first time you see it, it's very different from our last website. So you might want to spend a little time just kind of scrolling around and navigating to get some familiarity with it. Also, I would ask you, if you have time to do that, if you catch any mistakes, because there are some, I caught one just yesterday, let us know so we can fix the errors. So that's one thing. Secondly, I just wanted to remind everyone, all the chairs, to again, to start looking at, if you haven't done it already, start looking at the district needs statement. We will have to update it. It has to be submitted in October. Also to take a look at last year's budget requests, priorities, particularly the responses from the city agencies. The agency responses should, and to some extent, dictate what our priorities are or where they go. Because if you look at them, you'll see that some of the priorities that we listed went to the wrong agency or went to an agency that couldn't respond. So I think we need to fine tune that a little bit. And lastly, I'll just mention something I got from the Department of Consumer Affairs today. You know, a lot of the agencies send regular updates pertaining to what they're doing with regard to the coronavirus issues. And Department of Consumer Affairs sent one. If you know anyone who works in a restaurant or a retail establishment and they have some questions about health and safety guidelines, if they call 311 and just say worker protection hotline, that will take them to someone who should be able to answer their questions. And we also have some of that information on our website as well. And that's all I've got. Thanks.
Hey, question. Where can we find I can't raise my hand because I'm a co-host. Bob, where can we find electronically the budget request responses?
I knew someone was going to ask that. I haven't looked at that yet on the new website, but I'll send that to everyone tomorrow, so okay, you'll know where to go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys, and thanks, Bob, and thank you, Josh, for all your hard work on the new website. As people navigate around the new website and check it out, if you have any ideas, please let us know. And especially if you see something that logically should go with something else, or if you've got any ideas, we have a lot more freedom now to set the website up as we'd like. And I'm thinking that we'll probably have a separate page for each committee where we can have relevant information about each committee, frequently asked questions, et cetera. It'll allow us to start building that sort of a format. So if you guys are looking around and have some thoughts, think things are grouped together in a better way. Right now, the search function, I think is still not there, i.e. meaning you can't search our old resolutions, but I know Josh is working on that with Do It. If you have an old link to the, like for example, the old calendar, you can search through that, through the search bar on the top left. That's still there because that's still going there. It's a workaround as somebody who searches old resolutions frequently. But we're working on that for now. But thank you very much, especially to Josh. He's been working on this for some time. Another little thing that I had thought of, Bob was kind enough to do a little posting for the SLA meetings. And, we were having trouble figuring out how to get people to our website. We realized, we can use QR codes on our postings. And if anybody has any other ideas like that we can just really get information to people quickly, or any shortcuts, it'd be really helpful if you could share that with Bob and I. as far as there's an interesting article in the city today with respect to a Bronx community board, and it was discussions with respect to EEO training for community board members, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it sort of referenced that there was a module available to us from DCAS. It was an online module, but it's very much in keeping with what we've been discussing and asking for, which is the anti-bias training. I think that they're slightly two different topics, but it's interesting to see that the city's picking up on that. There's an unfortunate incident up in the Bronx. I'll put a link to the article. Let me see if I've got that here. For anybody who hadn't seen it, it's the headline article on the city.nyc. But I thought that was relevant to our discussions, and especially as with regards to asking the borough president to be providing better training. So the idea is with the EEO training is that all board members are in a position where when we engage with the board staff, we are selecting them as employees and are interacting them with employees, but we don't have that relationship when we interact amongst each other. So it's a different standard with the engagement with the board office. Am I capturing that right, Bob? Is that roughly? You're on mute.
I was reading something. I didn't hear what you said. Sorry.
I was saying, did I capture what the city article you weren't listening to me?
I heard the beginning. Yeah, I read the article too. Yes.
Huh?
What I heard, yes, you captured what the city article said.
Yeah, we were discussing it earlier, but it's in keeping with a lot of what we've been asking for, which is just better training for the board members. And in particular, you know, when it comes to the office staff, we have a different relationship, I was saying, than we do with each other as volunteers. So it really highlighted some of the weaknesses sort of in the institutional training side of things. So it's something I know for city employees get this type of training, but the question is that we're not employees, we're volunteers, but we still engage with the staff in that respect. Let's see if I have a few other things I'll bring up as we go through the committee reports. Okay, so I think we're going to start and just go through the calendar is what we're moving on to next. Did everybody see an email copy of the calendar that Bob had sent out? So I don't know, we jump right into September sort of with a bang on a Tuesday. So it starts in everything off in full gear. So we really need to get the calendar out in a timely manner so that, obviously the public's aware of what's going on. People are coming back from vacation, and Labor Day is the second or the first weekend in September, but it's almost like it's the second weekend just from the way the days fall.
7th, it's the latest it can be, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's the latest day it can possibly be. So how do the dates look for everybody? We have 2 meetings on the 3rd, which are traffic and transportation SLA licensing, which we need to figure out. And so I know Donna, Bob, and Shirley, I know the SLA is a really full calendar, and I know that Donna and Bob probably want extra time to write their resolutions. So I don't know if we can do what we've done in previous months, is maybe start the traffic and transportation committee meeting earlier and then have the SLA meeting a little later. That's the only way we can do the 2 meetings. I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts?
I know that DOT has already shown their interest in coming on the 3rd, and I can ask them if they can come earlier. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Yeah, you don't think so? Okay, yeah, that'd be helpful, because I know everybody wants to get everything done on the regular days. I know Janine's committee has been meeting a little earlier, and people have, from reports from Janine, said that they've been good with that.
You mean starting at 5 instead of 6:30?
Yeah, starting at 5 instead of 6:30.
But I was going to pull the committee, so I had only a couple people told me that. So not ready to change. It's also harder for some people, so no change yet.
And Donna and Bob,
The time frame between 5 and 6, because they might not be wanting to come that early.
what was that? I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, no, just like give the time frame between 5 and 6 and see what's best for them. They might not want to be able, if that's okay.
Did you have more topics than having an update from them? Do you think that your meeting's gonna?
Yeah, they have some projects to present. I don't know how long they will take or not, but I can confer with them and see.
Because we can't, the issue is we can't start the next meeting until your meeting is finished. So that's why it's just more of a figuring out the timing. So I guess maybe between now and next week, we can sort that out. And Donna and Bob, if we had to start at 7 in sort of a worst case, can we do that with the Thursday meeting?
The problem I didn't really look carefully at the calendar. That Labor Day weekend, that Thursday, I'm not even going to be able to attend the meeting.
Okay.
I have personal issues and family matters that I have to attend to.
Okay.
And that Tuesday, that first week of September, I know is a problem with Robin Rothstein. She can't attend on those Tuesdays. So, because it's the very first, it's like the very first. It's the 1st of September. So I also have a problem with the following Tuesday. So, from my vantage point, it's not all about me, but
Bob,
I still look carefully.
This 1 month, we're planning the arts meeting later in the month. So in this case, for September, I'm cool as far as the first Tuesday.
All right. So, I mean, if we can keep that first Tuesday, I think that works. What about you, Donna?
I'm fine. I'm open, so it doesn't really matter to me for anything.
And so could we maybe have a date the next week? Is what I'm thinking.
Well, we have land use and landmarks, which are both going to probably have items, but we won't know yet. So it's a little more complicated as far as planning. That's
Yeah.
okay. So we'll have to, all right, let's see if we can work on that. I mean, that's why we wanted to do this now as opposed to next week, so we can just make sure we're aware of any issues. So that's an open issue then for the SLA2 meeting. And then land use and landmarks, those are your normal dates. There are issues with those?
I don't have a calendar with it. That means the 17th of the 10th for landmarks, correct?
Right.
And I don't know what we're going to have on the docket, but in theory, the 9th would be fine.
Okay.
So Carter,
yes.
So Carter, this in terms of the second SLA meeting, how about the 8th then?
The which?
It's the day after Labor Day. It's the 8th.
Okay. Well, I mean, whichever one works. I mean, I'm just trying to get everything on the calendars, you know, with enough notice so we can start planning, etc.
Okay.
Does the 14th have anything, since there can be 2 simultaneous meetings?
The 14th is an education committee.
Okay, we'll have to figure out if landmarks is.
Carter, quality of life, we were going to do the composting discussion,
Okay.
but it doesn't have to be September. We can wait till October as well.
The other thing Bob and I had been talking about earlier, just as is maybe having SAPO come in. Is it SAPO, right, Bob? And have them sort of give us an update on what their thinking is as far as forward
for events.
Yeah, just events and just what, you know, Bob and I were just talking that they're sort of coming down to the wire on canceling things, that it's frame's really short. It might be helpful to understand what their criteria is.
You can definitely invite them. They have not come, and are you optimistic, Bob?
I'm not optimistic. I mean, they have come before on different issues. They've come to Shirley's committee and given good reports. In this case, my sense is that they might be a little timid because they don't want to get ahead of themselves on what they will or won't be doing. But it doesn't mean we can't invite them and see what they say.
I mean, one would think they have a little bit more time if they're not processing applications, but I mean, that's not always the case. But we might be able to do a meeting a little later in the month after the full board, or we could wait. It might be better just to do it at the end of September, right? I mean,
well, right now everything's canceled. Isn't it just through the end of September right now?
I think that's right. Yeah.
And
so
I don't know if we're foreseeing any changes, right, in the near future.
No.
Yeah, so that may not be.
There's also less events from October on.
Right. I mean, we can keep that open.
Okay.
An idea. We don't have to solidify it tonight, but that's. I think if you're gonna, it might be nice to do more than one topic. Is all I was thinking. If you're gonna meet each other, and not having an update might be helpful. And so as far as all right, so those are good. And then Janine, on the 14th works for you with a time TBA or TBD.
Yeah, I mean, for now, put 6:30, but I will pull the committee and quickly get back to you.
Okay, and then Valerie, you had mentioned that you guys are going to meet with arts and institutions, right, on the 24th, so we don't need to have the 16th?
Yeah, correct.
And then Susanna, senior centers?
Yeah, I think that we'll have that meeting in September.
Okay. So the 22nd works?
Yep.
And then Patricia and Mar, the 23rd works for you guys?
Yep. Yeah. With Bob earlier.
Okay. And then, all right. And then the economic development and small business. Anybody?
I don't think we have Janet or Dan on here.
Okay. So we're gonna. Bob, can you follow up with them and just see if they're Bo, Janet, or Dan, and see if they've got any plans for a meeting in September?
Okay.
And then we did not have on there the bylaws committee, and so Susan, just let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, we've been meeting every week, so once we get through, I would like to, sort of touch base with the committee members to see what works for them based on the current calendar.
Okay, sounds good. And Bob, can you just update this and just recirculate it so we can put it on the same page?
Okay.
I know a lot of people are going to be on vacation and a lot of moving parts. That's why working out September is a little more complicated than it might normally be. Okay. Anybody else have anything on the calendar? I missed a few raised hands here, Robin, so that you had your hand up.
Well, it's no longer really on topic. It had to do with your report, but I was just curious if you guys had any plans for down the road to add some video components to the new website to make it less static. There's ways to take static content and make it more active through short videos. It's just where we are and where we're going. So it seems to me that I don't want it, this is a bad term, but make it more sexy or just more and just more interesting and engaging to have take some of the text and convert it to video, or video in addition to the text.
Yeah, one of the things that Bob and I have been talking about, and that's where sort of the committees come into play, is just having a little bit more active information. So for example, if you have quality of life is sending letters, the DCA to have the letters on their own page in addition to the full board meeting minutes, so that people who are interested in a particular committee can see much more quickly what each committee is doing, and have it as a repository for that information, which is different than the full board minutes, which you know, contain all the information, are a little harder to sort through. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's fairly easy.
Bob and oh my, you guys are gonna kill me for saying, gonna kill me for saying this, but I'm thinking maybe we should have a short video having to do with sort of best practices for applicants, because every once in a while we'll get an applicant that's a little bit out, sort of clueless. They've missed putting all the pieces together, and I'm wondering if we can come up with some sort of just very short piece about anybody who's coming to the SLA committee to present, to just, pretty simple stuff that we're all used to, but that might seem to them unfamiliar.
Yeah, I think that's going to be in a written document, just with all the other materials. I know that Donna has been working on updating some of the materials along with Bob, and so sort of repackage the whole information that's on the website now and include that as well. And the same for a lot of the other committees. That's a little bit a part of what Patricia and Mara are sort of, in their engagements. How do we make each of our committees more accessible to people? And so this is all about accessibility, a lot of these issues, so people have a better understanding of what we do and what each committee does. And I think that now that we have a format in which we can group that information, it's much easier to even do it because we have a place to put it. Before, we were really at the mercy of do it in the whole structure and organization. Now there's a lot more freedom to do it ourselves. So that's included with that, and that's where we can have much more colorful information as well, whether it's, some of the committees are starting to use slides more and other information, or if there are presentations that we can include in there. So I think that's also interesting as well, as far as adding a little bit more pop instead of our black and white documents, so to speak, that we typically have.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of work going into this already, so I don't necessarily want to do that to people, but I do think we have to keep up with the times, and people are expecting video content now. And yeah, I think it is accessible for people who may not, for whatever reason, be able to access written content, have oral content, or maybe visual content just helps them engage more. It also might help people be more interested in community boards if they see active participants behind all the words. We just have so much text all the time. I think that can make people cross-eyed. And anyway, it's more of a little bit of a marketing.
I mean, we understand. I mean, that's something that's been discussed as well. So, okay. Bob? Ely? Bob? Let's see. Bob, you had your hand up? You're muted.
No, that was from before. I'm sorry. I got multiple windows open. It took me a while to get back in.
All right. Susanna?
Just to follow on with Robin's point, we're recording all of these meetings. It would be great if links to those recordings could be included on our website.
Yeah, I think that the executive had discussed that, and we didn't get to that point yet. I mean, if we want.
Thank you for calling New York State Parks Reservation Center. Did you know that you?
And okay, we have anything else? Okay, so I'm going to go through with the committees to start with those who have met already this month. Bob and Donna.
Yeah, we had I would say a fairly uneventful evening. We had a number of applications which one was for an upgrade. Everything was unanimous, deny unless type resolutions. One kind of stands out on West Street. It was for another one of these clubs, but the club was actually a very high-end building, and they wanted to put the liquor license on the base floor for the people living in the building. But the club aspect of it did not match the actual ABC law that permits that. So in other words, it had to do with it being a nonprofit when it was a for-profit type of establishment. So it didn't fit, and ultimately the committee voted to deny that particular application, consistent with other applications we got, trying to create some sort of license by saying you're a nonprofit when in fact you are. That's it.
I don't have anything to add. It was a hard meeting for me. I was sitting in my car doing it because I lost power that afternoon. So, yeah, I think that was it. And we had somebody else who the application has come before that had to withdraw afterwards because of the bathroom situation, and they were applying for the liquor license and there was no bathroom for customers to use. So that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, just so people aren't familiar, in New York City, if you have under 20 seats, you're not required to have a bathroom in an eating and drinking establishment. However, if you get a beer and wine license or a liquor license, you have to have a bathroom no matter how many seats you have. So sometimes in our very smaller storefronts where the bathrooms are the railroad style stores, or the bathrooms are all the way in the back, they're through the kitchen and therefore not accessible to patrons. And, you know, on occasion we have this issue come up, and sometimes they're correctable, sometimes they're not. You know, depends on the circumstance. But it's that's an example of a piece of information that we want to include on our website, so that people aren't surprised by that. It's infrequent, but it's generally at the smallest businesses that you know, generally it's hardest for them to secure representation, etc. Janine, schools and education.
Can you come back to me in just a minute?
Sure.
Someone else.
Okay.
A lot going on here.
Oh, understood. Frederica, how did things stand for land use?
Hi, everybody. ULURP is resuming formally on September 14th. And the city may be hearing ULURP applications before that time, but they will not, the ULURP clock will not start until the 14th. We still have the same 4 applications that have been kind of on the back burner. 3 are through DCP and 1 is through BSA. We have no information, or I have no information about them coming to the forefront. Carter, do you?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, and you had said something about the loft board?
Yeah, the loft board is reforming a significant number of all their regulations, and it's really not quite clear, since they don't meet in August, what the movement is on that, if when they're having a public hearing. But we probably want to weigh in on that, because traditionally CB2 has weighed in on that. It really crosses over into a lot of land use issues. The loft board, not something we deal with too much, but has a pretty significant impact on all the loft regulated units. And
that's right. And
they're doing a wholesale revision of their regulations.
Right. And so my question is whether we ought to write to them in advance and say that we would be very disappointed to have wholesale changes made to the loft laws while the envisioned Soho NoHo is still in the wind.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we can have them come. Maybe we can have them come over 2 meetings the way we have in the past, and sort of figure out from the first meeting where we're going to go with that. But I don't have complete information on that. both the Loft Board and the Envision Soho NoHo kind of acted independently from each other. And so it may rely on us to sort of bridge some of the obvious differences between the two. But again, I don't have all the information yet on that. So as we get more, we can sort of figure out where we're going, and also what their schedule is. As far as, they've been working on this, I think, for a couple of years. So it's not like it just, you know, showed up and was created. I have a couple hands up. You want to say anything else, Frederica, or do we?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, Michael?
Question for Carter and Frederica. Do we have any status on the Envision NoHo Soho, which you mentioned a moment ago? Is it still in abeyance, or is there any plans to revive it in the foreseeable future?
We don't have any information on that, but I think that that's something that we're going to go back to meeting on and delivering a recommendation in the coming months.
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Carter. Did you call on me or did I mishear you?
I just called on you. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to go back to, thank you, to the Loft Board changes. I've been trying to keep up with that as best I can, but obviously it's incomprehensible, you know, as always. But from what best I understand now of the 200 pages or so that have been released is most of it isn't problematic at all, but there are certain changes that we really need to understand. And I'm hoping that we could get either, you know, Chuck Delaney in or someone else, you know, from the Loft Board who could come into the land use and come in and explain to us exactly what's been going on and what the changes are, give us the information in a comprehensible form, then we can have a chance to really discuss it among ourselves and then have them come back again so we can actually ask them questions, because we do need to really understand, and we're not going to be able to do it on our own.
So that would be a good thing to do in September, whether or not we have any other applications on the agenda.
Yeah. And that also would allow us, if they're go into October for their public comment, it would still allow us to have 2 meetings. So we probably should just go ahead, schedule it and invite them and go from there. Okay.
Bob, is that something you would do for us? Bob or Josh?
Yeah, Bob, I'll work with you on that. We can, and Josh,
Okay.
can reach out to Chuck and to the Loft Board and just.
I'm in touch with Chuck and so as Pete Davies, so that it's something that we're all really thinking about. But I mean, so that's where all of this, there's been a lot of discussion. That's where this has come from. But I'm great. I hope we can get this, on the agenda as soon as possible.
Great. Bob, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut into that. I neglected to say a few things at SLA that have occurred over the last month. We've had a number of, if it's a good time, I'll do it now. So we've had a number of our recommendations go up to the SLA for review, because whenever we're in disagreement with an application, it appears and the decision is made by the State Liquor Authority. And we've had about 5 of them in the last month or so. One was the Museum of Ice Cream, which is a fairly large application. The other one was the Torch and Crown, which was had to do with a big beer garden. And each time in the last 3 or 4 occasions, the SLA has agreed with us in our recommendation. So I just wanted to bring that up. They seem to be, they seem to be listening to what we have to say, whether it's modification of what we're saying or a nuance of what we're saying, but they do seem to be listening pretty attentively, and it's nice to see. That's it.
Great, thanks, Bob. And I'm not, just as sort of to piggyback on that, I'd forgotten to discuss open restaurants, the SLA has been really very active in enforcement, and they've suspended over 100 liquor licenses throughout the state.
Wow. How many in the city, Carter?
I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty significant. They're meeting every single day and doing about between 5 and 7 suspensions a day. And tomorrow at 10 a.m., the New York State Liquor Authority also has a new YouTube channel, so you can watch the hearings live on that. It's much easier than it was before. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., they have their first meetings with people who've had their licenses suspended, the actual disciplinary resolution hearings. And White Horse Tavern is the second agenda item tomorrow morning. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The proposed settlement from White Horse Tavern to settle this was $40,000. And they've got a whole string of violations. So it'd be interesting to see the liquor authorities take on that. They haven't ruled on any of these yet. So we'll have a better understanding of what these suspensions look like in sort of the real world. And there's been, the suspensions have been all over the place. I'm sure some people have read about some of them. Some of them seem very well deserved. Others seem a little bit murkier. The press reports don't always have all the facts. You can actually watch most of the suspension hearings online, get a better sense of what was happening. But what is pretty astounding is that, let's say they visit a place and find they're in violation on a Saturday night, their license is suspended on Sunday. They've actually been meeting every day, and it's pretty amazing how fast they've been moving on this, as opposed to just about anything else which they do, which takes a lot longer. And so now, as they accelerate into hearing the disciplinary side of it, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And again, if you've got any complaints, please continue to send them to Bob and I, just the copies of the 311 reports, and Bob can follow up on them. Janine? Or Bob, were you done? Sorry.
So we have 2 resolutions. One is supporting open streets for schools. Some schools need open streets for ingress and egress. Some want to use it for instructional space. Some want to use it for just moving the kids around. And some of these are already play streets in the past, and some of them are additions. Right now we have requests from all 3 elementary schools, as well as 75 Morton, and 2 high schools, City As School and Harvest Collegiate, which is on 14th, but has an exit on 13th Street, and they only need a portion. And I've spent a follow-up calls after last night's meeting. So we'll have some soft language around, obviously subject to safety and blah, blah, blah. But these schools really need the space. And we also learned, this is sort of the real haves not. Harvest Collegiate has no ventilation working. They did not have a working ventilation system last March, and they still don't have one. And so they actually want to have some instructional space, either the street and so forth. And our resolution last month on this included a therefore be it resolved about using open spaces and park spaces. And I think, Rich, you had mentioned to Carter that we should beef that up a little bit. Separately, we'd reached out to Steve Simon, who's the chief of staff for Manhattan, and he said that Parks is still working on that. City As School also would love to use that unused space at the water tunnel site on Hudson Street, because they're just at a real dearth of a real need for space. Again, high schools, bigger classes, bigger students, and both of these high schools are in really old buildings. And then we're going to have we had an interesting discussion at the end. We're going to have a second resolution that's going to be some short and sweet in 2 sentences or so, that drawing on all the different resolutions we've passed the last several months, that basically say, we need to make sure that everything's in place before schools open. And I know it's intentionally broad. We had a long discussion, but basically therefore be it resolved that the DOE prioritize high quality remote teaching and learning as has been done in other cities and private schools in our city until and unless all schools can provide safe in-person education. Because we kind of went back and forth because at this point, with the remote options, at best, kids will be in school 3 days a week. I mean, in school 2 days a week and sometimes one. So the majority of their time will be spent on remote learning. And our biggest concern is all of these logistics in terms of reopening is taking time away from delivering a better remote product. So, and we're going to have a meeting in September. Things are changing daily in terms of education. We don't have an agenda for that yet. Any questions? No. Okay.
Thank you, Jean. And so Robin and Valerie, you guys are going to be having museums in at the end of the month?
We are the Cagney and Lacey of September.
Okay.
That is a lot to live up to, but I'm up for the challenge. Yeah, we're gonna do, you know, we've had a great call with Jane from the Whitney, and we really want to use this as a way for, it's really for the museum professionals really to share this information that Jane from the Whitney has from this task force that she's been on the reopening of museums. So that's really the catalyst, but also as well to inform the larger community about what's happening there. And again, as of right now, there's no definite date for that reopening. So that's it on that.
And I think the museums were caught off guard as far as they thought that they were reopening, and I think it was they were caught off guard that they were removed from the phase 4 timing. And then Valerie, you also have another meeting next week.
Yes, on Monday we have Restarting Together Universities, and then this one with Robin is Restarting Together Museums, just to get all of the branding straight. Yes, so on Monday we have Arlene from NYU and Mary and another VP from the new school, and haven't heard back. I've been playing email tag with somebody from Cardoza, but I believe they're going all virtual, so it's not as tantamount to the conversation, but we are extending the invitation. So I think it's going to be a really great discussion, and you know, if anyone here has any questions that have been looming about this population, again, everything with that is changing hourly and daily. As you know, we keep hearing these other universities like Princeton that have completely shut off students returning to campus. So much of this could change even up until that meeting and even afterwards. But you know, we really want this to be an opportunity to let local businesses know what's going on, as well as the community at large. You know, there is still that state the travel advisory is in place, and you know, while it's not the normal volume of students coming back, there is likely going to be some questions about that as this population comes back to the residence halls and back into off-campus housing. But hopefully we can provide a forum. We want to really get the word out about this meeting. So that's really it with that. And then I do have one thing I'd like to ask all of the committee chairs to do at their meeting, is just to maybe drop in a link and say something about the census at our meetings. You know, we have this forum I'm kind of putting on my Amy Brenna hat right now. She's been our board champion for the census, but it's just become way more top of mind with me. I'd like to also give a shout out to Will, who's on here as well. We both volunteered with Gail's Hit the Streets for the census on a summer Friday. We were the only CB, I think there's maybe somebody else from CB6 maybe, but there was like a lone few of us community board members. So it was nice to see Will and to hit the pavement with him to get the word out about the census. But to circle back to why I said all this, Yeah, if it's just if the committee chairs could just maybe give a quick, hey, the just say something about the census and just drop that link into the chat. It's just another touch point and opportunity. That's it for me.
Valerie, what's the date of the joint meeting with Robin?
We have it for the 24th, Thursday, the 24th.
Thank you.
Of September.
Yeah.
Of September.
Can I add something about the census? Thank you, Val, very much for doing that. Because the census is ending a month earlier, although they're going to court with that, it's supposed to end October 31st. It's now ending September 31st for nefarious reasons, I'll say. It's just a couple more weeks until you can when you do online census, and they will have people going out door to door to try to collect census information. That door-to-door census information is notoriously less reliable than online reporting I can explain to anybody if they want why that is, offline, unless you're all incredibly interested about that. So please encourage people to go online and fill out the census and to send that link to everybody they know, if they in their buildings, anyone else they know who lives in New York City. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Amy. And just another thing I'd forgotten is that all of our precincts in August are having a build the block meeting. So if you've got any interest in engaging with your local NCOs about any local issues, you can find that information on each of the precincts websites as far as what the meeting dates are. I think a lot of them may have happened or are happening. So it's this week and I think the beginning of next week. And then the other interesting thing about the meeting with NYU and the new school is when the students come back, for those who are around, is what it's going to look like in our immediate community on the streets. It's going to definitely change the dynamic, change what the parks look like, available seating and sort of some of the social distancing. I mean, I don't think anybody has any answers on what it'll look like, but it's definitely going to change. So that's very positive, I think, for the local businesses. I've also heard a few things from local residents that they're concerned about that. So it'll be interesting to hear what the new school and NYU have to say.
Hey, Carter, I'm wondering, this has been sticking in my head since you guys have been talking about it, but these are institutions. I'm wondering if my committee shouldn't be, co-hosting this with Valerie, since this feels like it would have normally fallen, if we didn't have a reopening working group, this would have fallen under my jurisdiction. What do you think?
Well, if the meeting's on Monday, so I mean, it's more of an informational meeting than it is anything that we're generating resolutions from. The idea here was to.
I'm sorry, I thought it was September.
No, it's this coming Monday. And the idea here was to give local businesses and local residents an idea of what the environment is going to look like, as far as one of the, for us, one of the significant phases of moving forward. And so that was the educational, universities, just as far as how they bring back into our community individuals moving around, whether the administration, what the ideas are for that, the students living in dorms, whether or not they're teaching classes in person or online or partially. It just gives a good sense of what people can expect in our immediate environment. So that was more the idea of the reopening aspect of it. It's not the specifics of what they're doing. It's more, how that's going to engage the local area around them. And then Shirley, I see that you've got your hand up. Shirley?
Yep. Oh, Shirley, sorry.
Sorry about that. NYU is starting to do one thing, which is the open street on University Place. They will be managing the part between 8th Street and down to West 3rd, and it will be all day. Up to now, it's just been on a Sunday until 1 o'clock. And they will be extending also into Washington Place. I think they'd like to do more. I just don't know whether DOT will be giving them that privilege. but at least there will be some more social distancing space for students there.
Great, thanks, Shirley. And then let's see where we had Chanel.
We have a rather unremarkable agenda for this week. The interesting thing is how united the Soho residents are in looking after a building that's been very well restored, particularly the ground floor, which has often been destroyed. Was to put two, they have a special name, but it's ATM machines that are right on the street, so it would involve invading a door and just being ugly. And they're remarkably well organized about sending us letters. I can't recall when we've had more opposition letters to something.
And that's 462 Broadway, 120 to 132 Grand Street, correct?
Yep. Yep, one on each facade.
And
it's first on the agenda if anybody wants to tune in, particularly Soho people.
You can see that particular presentation, which is linked on our calendar, but I just put it in the chat if people are interested in taking a look. Okay, and are you, Chanel, for next month, if you thinking it's probably one meeting, or do you think that?
We just have no idea. It's been so, normally we would pick up in August actually against the, probably want to build in the fall, I'm not sure. So there's just no way of knowing. We could probably do an earlier time.
During one of the other nights, okay.
If we really need one.
And when's the cutoff date for that? When we would know, Bob or Chanel?
Cutoff. Lost my calendar.
1 week before.
Well, we would have put as much as we could in to on the 17th.
Okay.
There is the weird thing of that Friday or the Monday 11th. I mean, if somebody came in on the Friday, it is late this year, the 4th, and they couldn't come on the 7th because Labor Day, that they technically could be heard, because if we didn't hear them, they'd have to be heard after the commission. So I just don't know.
Got it. Okay.
It's interesting because it's so late in the month, yet we are on schedule with the usual amount of time before the end of a month. I would say it's not likely that we'll need to do anything extra.
Okay.
Because they have very little time to get in September before our meeting.
Right. Okay. Rich, Parks?
Yeah, we didn't meet this this month. The only thing I would highlight is the High Line, which seems to, the reopening of which seems to be a big success. There was a very positive review of it that I forwarded around to the committee. And it appears that tickets are available. They're only, remember, it's a ticketing service. They're only allowing bookings a week in advance. But if anyone wants to go, it's you can go to their site and you can get a ticket for free, and you can show up and walk along. It only goes up to it only goes from Gansevoort up to 20th Street or so, 22nd. Donna, what are you saying? Yeah, 22nd. So it's over pretty quickly. Like, you wouldn't make a day of it, although you can hang out up there. But it's worth seeing, and it's exciting, and it's sort of some people are seeing it as the city coming back. So I encourage you to check it out.
Great.
That's about it.
And then Joe, quality of life. Joe, you're on mute. Can't hear you. think, is your phone maybe on mute? Because you're unmuted on Zoom, or microphone, or.
Yep.
Okay, I guess should we come back to you? You're typing. Oh, there you go.
He put out a chat that said he doesn't have any.
Okay, great. No updates. Got it. All right. I like that. That's a good one.
But Joe did, Joe wrote a really nice, I've been meaning to congratulate him on it. He wrote a really nice memorial for someone, and I'll send him an email to thank him for it. He was quoted, and I was thinking about, we gave a moment for Tom before, and he wrote for Ellen Peterson Lewis, who passed away recently, and he had a really nice quote and a little story in Lincoln's Village Sun story about her. So.
Okay. Yeah, Ellen's another person that we lost as well. Susanna, Social Services.
We did not meet in July.
And everything's on track?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't meet because there seemed to
I mean, for the senior center.
We wanted to have this meeting of re-envisioning senior centers because we've heard from Greenwich House that DFTA is thinking about reconceiving the stipulations for their RFPs. But there wasn't much public interest in it, and at the moment, in July, and it just seemed like it was a waste of time. We should do it when maybe people's heads might be more onto that subject. I'm also interested in trying to find out more about food insecurity in Chinatown after a comment that Janine made about the number of meals being distributed at the public school there. I'm trying to get in touch with Margaret Chin's chief of staff. Maybe Bob can help me do that. Because we don't really think so much about Chinatown because such a small sliver of it is in our community board, and there isn't a very strong voice from Chinatown in our board. But I was kind of alarmed to hear that, and so I'm going to pursue that as well.
Janine, can you just give us the rundown on those numbers? I mean, at Baxter Street?
Sure. It's been, each time it's gone up, I'm always shocked at the number, but last Wednesday, which is the latest time I have the data for, PS 130 gave out 13,950 meals. That's about 14,000 meals. And you can, any adult can pick them up, and they can pick up to 3 meals. So that's, 3,500 people. I mean, it's more than that. It's 4,000, 3,700 people picking up meals. That is a lot. Right now, you do not need to be a student or a parent of a student to pick up a meal. And, but what's open now is whether or not that will continue when school opens on September 10th. And as of today, it's still an open issue. And primarily, I think it's a money issue, and it's also a social distancing issue. If you go down Baxter Street, you will see long lines. PS 41 is also a location giving out free meals in CB2. I do not know the numbers there. I've walked by, I've seen people, but not the same lines.
I mean, when Greenwich House put out all these tentacles among its membership and beyond, they were reassured to find that there was not a lot of food insecurity, and so it's but in Chinatown it's a different story. So I'm going to see if anything there, not just for now, but in general, is food insecurity an issue in Chinatown?
Okay. I'll email you Gigi Lee's information. That's Margaret Chin's chief of staff.
Thank you.
Right, Patricia.
Yeah. Regarding PS 130, when school resumes, hopefully, fingers crossed, they said that they use a separate entrance to deliver the food to the people that are lined up to be socially distant to get the information and the food. When the kids come back, I think Rennie Fong, who's the principal, said that he was hoping that they would look into a different site. So maybe Susanna, I'm not sure if there's an aging center, I'm not sure, around there that would maybe help out. So
Yeah, I thank you, Mar. That's very helpful. I just want to know about the issue in general. You know, not just the distribution of meals there. To me, the distribution of meals there indicates the problem that we may have overlooked. You know, I don't know anything about food insecurity in Chinatown, and so whether the senior centers or other, you know, the settlement houses or something are more involved in it than others. I feel like it's something that we should be tapping. It's a need that we should be tapping into. That does not appear to be a need in Greenwich Village. But you know, it's easy for us to forget that Chinatown actually is still a part of it. It's mainly CB3, but and it's, you know, but it's still a part of our district.
You know, Susanna, you might want to touch base with Susan Stetzer as well, and just if there's some crossover engagement across our community boundaries, she might be able to.
That's a great idea. Thank you for that.
Mar, did I see you had your hand up? Do you not have your hand up anymore? No more hand up. Okay. All right. Thanks, Susanna. And then Shirley, you're on mute.
Someday I'll remember. We didn't meet last month. I did get an answer from our MTA New York City Transit rep on a question we had the month before about air quality in public transit. And she said that they've increased the frequency of subway air filter replacements from every 72 days to every 36 days. And that they're also launching a 30-day pilot to test innovative new air filters on several car classes to examine if they effectively kill microbes. And on buses, windows and hatches are being opened to the extent possible to increase fresh air circulating. And then DOT also just notified us that they are putting an improvement in at Bank Street and Greenwich Street. It's an enhanced crossing, which means signage, crosswalks, to provide more pedestrian safety. I think the community would like to see a stop sign. They're not as quick to do that, but this will be something, and they'll be doing that within the next week or so. And that's really about it. As far as what's coming in September, DOT has told us they have some projects to present. They have not told us what yet. That's it.
Great, thanks, Shirley. There's, I'm going to post it in the chat. There's a really interesting article in the Times, what happens to viral particles on the subway, which has an interactive feature, which I thought was really interesting, but I just put that up there. I think this was what we were talking about at your last meeting, right? So,
yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Carter. Yeah, I had seen that. Peace.
And all right, now we're moving on to working groups for the equity working group. Mara and Patricia, do you guys?
Yeah, we had our meeting. Sorry, I'm stuck in my headphones. Hi, yeah, we had a good meeting. We went over terms and terms that should not be used in a community board setting, and some other high frequency terms that are actually important in our equity work. And I feel like they were well received, and we are now going to institute a working list of terms that should not be used in a community board setting, which we will share with you and which will grow. And we also welcome submissions for the list. And our next meeting is the 23rd of September. That's all I got.
Yeah, and the terminology, just, I mean, if any of the board members come across things, just, please feel free to share them with Mar and Patricia. There's a lot of small articles with just, things we don't necessarily, aren't right, but you don't necessarily think of them to include them on a list. And so, there was an article that I just saw, like, off the reservation. Clearly that's not appropriate. Mumbo jumbo is another, phraseology that's certainly not appropriate. But as we come across them, I think it's important that we're all just sharing them, because the faster the list will be compiled. It's not that most of us don't know what terms are not appropriate. It's just coming up with them because we're not in the process of having committee meetings where you might think of something. So we can't always rely on other people's work for this stuff when we have our own style of things. And then last but not least,
could I say something about this? The survey was very interesting. I enjoyed filling it out. It's sort of do everything and why we do it.
Fantastic.
I hope I didn't take up too much space. I didn't count the words.
We can't wait to see the list. Amy's working on that. So thank you, Amy. Great.
All right, and then last but not least, for the working group, Susan with the bylaws working group, and Bob had distributed some of the work that they've been doing to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the group has been putting in a lot of effort. We've been meeting every week. I hope you've all had a chance to look at what we've produced. There are 4 sections, 3 of which are totally new. The main aspect of the election section is we have eliminated the nominating committee. We're trying to create a system that is streamlined and direct. The second one is electronic voting. We're living in the age we're in, we have to address that. The third one is got to do with a special term. There's been discussion that due to term limits that have now been placed on the board, we do not want to deprive the board of having officers that may have to forego the opportunity to serve because they'll be term limited out before their term of service is over. So what we've done is suggested we'll have a special election at our regular time in November, which would be for a 4-month period. And then our elections would then be aligned with the normal term of office that starts April 1st. And the last one has to do with special elections, dealing with the situations that should we have, most importantly, the chair, but other officers too, if we have seats that become vacant and there is more than 4 months remaining in the term, so that the board has an opportunity to weigh in on who they'd like to see as a replacement instead of just having it automatically decided by the bylaws. It's something that hasn't actually been thought about for a while, but we felt that no one should be sort of pushed into being a chair if they're not ready for it. So any feedback is obviously requested. We are meeting tomorrow. One thing I would like to mention to Bob, according to the calendar, it has us meeting at 5 p.m. We're actually meeting at 6:30. But otherwise, love to hear what people have to say.
Regarding that time glitch, Josh is on the call. Josh, if you could correct the calendar, and I'm not in tomorrow, but Josh and Carter will have to send out I guess an email blast, so the public will know.
Okay, thank you.
Susan?
Yeah.
This is Shirley Smith. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm fine too, thanks. Just so I just got this, and it would have been nice if we could have gotten this a little earlier than during the meeting. So I see a couple of things, but I will talk to you about them offline because I haven't had a chance to read and digest this, and I just received it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know it was sent out a little late, and absolutely, if I don't want anyone to rush through it. I mean, our whole process has been about thinking this through in a methodical way. So, you know, any input tomorrow, you know, whether in the coming days, just so that we have as much input when we present our draft to the board as a whole.
And when do you plan to do that?
Well,
That's actually why that Susan's presenting it tonight, because we wanted to send it out by Thursday or Friday of this week so that the board has a chance to look it over. But we wanted to get initial feedback from the executive committee if there are any issues, so that we could hopefully avoid any protracted discussions, or if there are any, you know, issues or anything that was missed by the committee, whatever it may be, so that we can get out something that's a little closer to being finalized, because as everybody knows, the discussions can take quite a lot of time at the full board meeting. So the idea was to try to get that discussion happening before the meeting occurred, so it can be written out properly.
And because the election process actually starts in September, we'd like to sooner versus later, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, does it have the changes, or it looks like it's just the whole thing, or am I just looking it on my phone?
No, you're looking, it's only a clean copy. Only the first section was actually a revised version. The sections B, C, and D are new. So that's why there is nothing. And section A, I didn't really feel it made sense to send out because there was so little, you know, it is so new. If you'd like to see what we had before on our website, you can get our current bylaws are on the website, but I just felt like it would be too marked up and you wouldn't really see what's going on.
I can't raise my hand because I'm a host. So.
Oh.
Okay, great. Hi. First of all, Susan, thanks to you and your committee for their diligent attention to this and meeting weekly, which is amazing. I had a chance to read through it, and just the foresight that you guys have shown with, I didn't even think about electronic voting. So I just want to thank you and your committee for the hard work that's put into this. I know that there's more to it. I did have one quick thing on the electronic voting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just adding, that's on page 3 on the 1, 2, 3, 4, on the 5th line where it says, whoever has been counted as present shall receive a ballot which shall be sent to the address. And I would just say to add email in there. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, you're obviously not sending anything unless you're going to do some sort of Uber Eats or something, delivery ballots, but I know that's not the case.
Nothing.
Yeah, and then I would just say making sure, and I don't know that needs to go in the bylaws, but I think there is going to be, you know, as someone who's taking attendance, I think we'll just want to make sure that that's really smooth on the back end of making sure that we know that that's going to get communicated in a quick manner to get those electronic ballots in time throughout the duration of the meeting. Or just knowing like what that sequencing will be. And I don't know if that needs to be, I don't think that needs to be written in the bylaws, but just knowing like, okay, when that's done, that's going to get emailed, you know, as a Word doc, as the you know, just, it's more of just a logistic thing on the back end, just to make sure it goes smooth.
No, those are the kind of things, you know, when you keep looking at it again and again on your own, you don't always see these things, but fresh eyes is what we really value at this point.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah, and in section B, right under that, which is running a simulated electronic voting process with all the board members, is to just really make sure the process is smoothed out so Bob in the office can work out everything. And, you know, and I think that, you know, that is very important. I might even suggest that instead of doing it a week, we do it 2 or 3 weeks before, just in case there are some ideas that we might be able to implement, especially the first time around, as far as going from attendance to just being able to generate those emails quickly. There's a couple of ways we can probably do it, but we just need to.
Yeah, that's the tough thing is we don't, until you try, you don't know how long this takes in real time. So.
Right. And you guys have accounted for that with the test run. So I glazed over that. So thank you for calling that to my attention.
And the idea is to have the results of any election by the end of the meeting, as opposed to what we might be looking forward to in our own national.
Unlike in real life, we do things accurately and efficiently.
And it's easier said than done, because it's a lot of work accounting for all the emails coming in, obviously. But then there's also a provision for people to call in, which is important. But if anybody has any thoughts too, if you can get them to Susan by tomorrow as well, or Susan, I don't know if you're available for people to call you, but we really want to work out any kinks as far as details. So if you think this through when you're reading of how an election would run at a full board meeting, just envisioning the process, you might be able to see if there are any smaller issues. And just what Susan had highlighted, there's the section on the special election process, which was not really outlined previously in our bylaws, to replace any seats that may become open during the year. And then there's a provision of if there someday is in-person voting, that it be done as a secret ballot, as opposed to an open ballot. I don't know where that was. Susan, do you know where reference is that?
That's section, it's in 7A.
Right,
or 7, yeah. It's in B, subsection B, 8, VIII.
Right. Oh, right. There you go. And this had just I guess there was some discussion, and the reason that people felt that there was, I'm forgetting the right terms, but the decisions made based on who people voted for during the elections.
There shouldn't be repercussions. Everyone should be free to cast a vote based on their conscience, and there should be no repercussions.
In the past, we've had some repercussions from people looking at ballots.
Right.
Trying to eliminate that.
I think those are some of the things, but it's just like Valerie pointed out with the email address, they're from little things to big things.
Exactly.
We're trying to get the bylaws as smooth as possible. If you go back and read the current bylaws, there's a little jumpy in some areas because they were done at the full board meeting without just really being, thoroughly vetted and cleaned up. And so that's one of the objectives here as well.
Right. Right. And we've never really, it's been so long since we've gone through and in a systematic way looked at everything, saw that sections worked, cooperatively with one another, so we're taking it slow but steady.
Yeah, and we want to have it just as worked out as much as possible so that when we distribute it at the end of the week to the full board, it's got as much of the, the little issues worked out. So if people want to raise and discuss any issues, we can talk about those more as opposed to any of the corrections, etc.
Okay.
Any other questions for Susan? Okay, did I miss anybody? I don't think I had missed anybody. I'd posted in the chat a nice obituary that Lincoln wrote about Tom.
That's right.
And I just want to especially thank Valerie for going over and meeting with Tom and helping him get set up to join our meetings using his tablet. And so that really, I think, made a big difference to Tom. And he had shared that. And also with, I can't remember what you made for him, but I know you had baked something for him. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Spinach lasagna.
Spinach lasagna, there you go. And I know he enjoyed that. But Tom's very much going to be missed.
To pass that on, I mean, that's really Dr. Smith who had reached out to me. So, you know, my heart to Dr. Smith for giving me that wonderful gift of the short time that I got to know him a little better.
Great, thanks. And thank you, Dr. Smith.
You're welcome.
I know a number of people had sent some very nice emails back to me. So it's we're gonna miss Tom. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Are there any other issues, any new business that anybody wants to bring up? September is going to be a really busy month, and I think we're going to have a lot sort of thrown at us, certainly from the schools. It's going to it's another unknown period that we're going to head into. So we'll see how everything works out. Hopefully everybody can be as flexible as possible if we need to make any adjustments through the course of the month just to get things to work, or if we have to add any meetings or any topics as they come along. Dr. Smith?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate now, Carter, I'd like to share with the committee where we are with my reaching out, trying to get us some training for implicit bias.
Oh yeah, the training, just Shirley, I think there might have been a miscommunication. It's the borough president's office that's looking to reaching out as far as having them organize the training. I'd meant to call
Okay,
you.
so you and I, do you want us to talk offline?
Yeah, we can talk offline, because really the goal here is getting the borough president's office to institute this training in a formalized fashion. And I think the city article is really about that as well. It just really highlights that we really need, across all the boards, to really have a big shift in the way that we think about policies and procedurals and structural issues, particularly as it comes to trainings. I've been thinking about this a lot, and that's really, if we can get the borough president's office to institutionalize this type of training, I think that will be a big success for all of us. And I know that Bob had brought it up this month, and I had brought it up, and the answers were that they were working on it. And I spoke to Rosie, and I had mentioned, I think when the last time we talked, that I'd mentioned to you that I'd spoken to Rosie, so we can reach out to her and have a conversation with her about it. Really,
well, that's fine. That's fine. I'll we can talk offline, and we.
I'll give you a call right after the meeting.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? No? Okay. I think in next week's meeting should be a little smoother for executive. So hopefully we'll shoot for having a meeting under an hour. So I think we covered a lot of it today. A lot of it's just getting the scheduling done for next month, so we can get the calendar out. And everybody really does need to get their agendas in early, because Bob is going to be taking a few days off through the rest of the month, which is a great thing. Then he'll be with us. He'll be with us during the busier parts of the year. So and also, I'm not sure if there's anywhere to go, Bob, but at least you won't be here.
The National Gallery of Art is now open in Washington, so. And the beach is always open.
When you come back?
What's that?
You have to quarantine when you come back?
Not in Washington,
DC's
no.
off the list.
What's that?
DC's off the advisory.
That's right. That's right. DC's off.
Oh, I guess you can go there, Oregon, Washington.
I've got it all figured out.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
To be the one to reply to Jane Carey as far as confirming September, or do you want me or Val to do it?
Oh, you guys, I mean, are we solidified on that date with the 24th? I didn't see your emails from today. So that's a definitive date. Was it the 24th?
Well, I just saw it in the drafts.
Yeah.
I think the only reason we would move it to the 29th is if it's a conflict with Jane, right? I mean.
Okay. Why don't we leave that open for Jane and have her decide if you guys.
All right, well, that's fine. But do you want to respond, or do you want Valerie or me to respond to her?
You guys can reach out to her.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. And we will miss Tom.